Salam. Hi everyone. It's so good to see you all again, and it's like very good to talk to you because you are a bunch of very good fellas, and I am, I will say, I am like privileged to share some knowledge with you guys. So, Saglan, if we should start,
Yeah, I think we can start.
perfect. Okay, I am sharing the screen to present, I think. Yeah, cool. Just a second. Yeah, fine. So today we are going to talk about the ultimate guide to React Native optimization, and this guide is curated by like the industry experts. What I'm trying to say is there is a lot of work that has been put into curating this book. Today we are going to talk about how we can uh, use this book for our use case, and how we like created this book, and what are the shortcomings and what are the upcomings. I mean, like how can we tackle the performance stuff when we are working with the Native apps. So my name is Hur. Most of you guys know me, and I am currently working at Call Stack, and I was privileged to co-author this book. I think almost 30% of the book is covered by me, and I am like delighted for that. The first edition of this book was written in 2018 or 2019, and it was revised 3 years l- later for 2023 edition. So a lot of has been changed from the first version. So, okay. Uh, yeah. So before diving into how this book works, or how this book is like organized, we can first talk about a few more things, right? So what happens when we don't pay attention to the performance, right? So what happens when you are just focused on delivering the features, resolving the bugs, and focused on the durability, and just not on the performance? Why do we do that? So the first thing that happens when your app starts to bottleneck, the user frustrates and leaves the app, right? So what will happen if the user is frustrated? If he if he is a loyal customer, he will probably come to you and raise a support request and ask you to fix something, and if not, he will just uninstall the app. And consequently, the ROI means that the return on investment, it will be decreased because of the less downloads, and because of the user uninstalling the apps, you will have the less money, or the less turnover, all in all. And later on, if you decide to, okay, now it's time to put some effort in performance, it will be very hard to maintain the code and to optimize and debug it further. So basically, you will be investing to hire like more developers to come in and to help with the performance and with the features, because you also want to deliver the new features, and you also want to improve the performance of the app, so you don't lose the users. So it will be very hard and difficult to maintain, and it will require some more investment in that area. So how should we deal with it? So basically, this should happen when you start developing the application, right? Or maybe sometimes after that, when you have like a very decent user base, and you think, okay, now it's time to focus on performance. If you are like receiving the bad feedbacks, so first thing is to write the better code, performance efficient code. But it comes with a constraint, and that is to require the deep knowledge of the platform, and that is very hard to get right. Okay, so what you do is you keep on learning new stuff. So for example, if we talk about React, you have to keep a tab on the React's documentation, React's blog, and everything like that. You have to follow the React core maintainers on Twitter. So basically, what it is like a common thing that like that like most of the like information regarding the core stuff is often shared by the core maintainers on Twitter or maybe on like GitHub. So you have to follow them, you have to keep a tab of like almost everything. So the second point should be like okay, so once you created a feature, for example, you added a news feed, and now you are trying to roll out to the users. So what you want to do is you want to regress it. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, for example, before adding the new feature, your app startup time was about like 1 second, and after you added the news feed, it is like 1.5 seconds. So you don't want that. You want it to be around one, or uh like very minimal increase to that. So what you want to do is you want to regress it. So it could be either automated or like manual. So for manual, you could be using the profiler tools and all, and for the automated stuff, you could use tools like reassure. It is created by Callstack, and we could go into some details later on. It has like it's very dedicated section in the book. So yeah, so basically we could use that to automate the regression testing, and the results will be available on the CI. So it basically it basically acts as a firewall to not allow any unexpected performance issues in the app. Third point could be like you have to keep a tab on the user metrics. For example, you can uh, take account into the Android vitals or the Xcode metrics. So that comes into in like organizer. So you could see that, okay, these devices or these things are taking the slower times. So how can we tackle to that? Or maybe you can take a look at, okay, this screen is facing the janky frames, and how can we control that? So once you are keeping a tab on that, you have to create an like entry of that on maybe like Jira or whatever you are using. So and then treat them as like features. Or basically, if you don't treat them as features, you will run into the issues that we just discussed a slide before. So you have to find a balance between the features and the performance, because both of them are very essential for your app and for users as well. S- Fine. So once we have this, okay, so what is in the ultimate optimization guide for me? I mean, like as a developer or as a software engineer, so how can I use this book? So what the first thing you could learn is, don't shoot in the blind. So this is a common like mistake when someone comes to you, okay, my app is facing the lag in the scrolling. For example, if we are using Facebook and the newsfeed is like it starts to lag, you could think like, okay, this might be related to improve the render item, and in that, what should you improve? Why I mean, you don't know what you don't know if it is related to the memory consumption or to the component like loading time and all. So there comes a lot of different things. So don't shoot in the blind. First thing is, learn how to profile if you don't know it. And if you know it, pinpoint the areas and then optimize it. So you want to optimize only the thing that okay, this is the for example, the list is lagging because of the memory issues. So you will be then diving deep into that part. The images are taking time to load, or maybe you are doing something wrong with the states or with the props, and something else, maybe it is related to the SVG. So you have to profile that, and once you profile that, you have the knowledge, okay, I want to target this particular area. Once you target that, you raise a fix for that, and then you regress it, which means that you try to verify your solution, right? It also has a second part. The profiling always comes with two things, right? Once you want to have a benchmark. So basically the benchmark could be something like, if your list is lagging, you try to record some measurements. For example, you took like, it is like 30 janky frames. So basically the janky frames are the one that doesn't complete in the cycle of 16 ms, right? So basically 60, we have like 60 fps, which means the 60 frame per second. And if we divide it to the one like fraction of it, it would be like the one frame should be completed in like almost 16 ms. So the frame that doesn't complete in the 16 ms, we refer to it as a janky frame, right? Or like dropped frame. So uh, you could note that. Okay, so before proposing the solution, you have like 30 janky frames like total. And once you like raise the solution, it is like down to 10 janky frames. So it is like a 20 frames win for you. So you have to get the benchmark like before and after the solution to compare. uh cool. Now, this book is, as I talked, it is created by like industry experts based on the like experiences, and by working alongside with the core maintainers. It is also being contributed by the Expo core maintainers and other guys who works like independently and keep contributing to the React Native core. Um, yeah, and one more thing. Yeah, so basically, if we talk about it further, I have just highlighted a few things in like in this like presentation. But the section in the book, it is like almost, I think, 18 to 20 pieces that you could read. I will try to go through some of them. uh, third point could be to know the performance measurement tool. So this thing, it is very essential, because most of the time you don't know how to use the profilers. Basically, the most complicated ones are the like native profilers, because we live in the native world. We don't know how to profile some things with the native profilers. We are mostly aware with the React dev tools. If someone have used them, so they are just familiar with them. They don't know how to use the Android Studios profiler or the Xcode instruments. So they don't basically they think that it is very complicated to get it right. So this guide has like dedicated sections to working with the Android profiler, with the Xcode's like instruments, and with the React dev tools as well. So that is very important when we talk about performance in the React world. So yeah, because almost I mean, I would say like almost 80 to 90% of the performance stuff arises from the JavaScript side. So it is very useful to learn how to profile with React DevTools. Okay, so in this book you could also like learn the advanced techniques. So you could learn how to use the third party libraries. I mean, like how to use them, but what package to pick, what third party library to pick, so you don't end up having the bad results. One example of that is we were working on a client project, and they were having a performance stuff going on. I mean, their lists were very laggy, and upon investigating their code, we we found out that they are using a third party package that is related to crypto. And it is taking like a lot more time for each item in the list. So we analyzed that using the profilers, obviously, and then we replaced that package with a very lightweight crypto package. I don't recall its name. Maybe it is like quick crypto. So the results were very good. So when you are working with, or when you have like multiple choices to choose between a third party package, always think about certain things that have been talked about in the book. So basically we have a section called like always think twice before picking a third party library. It is something like that. So you have to read that if you want to, to be able to pick the best package for your application. You could also learn how to like performance efficient code related to the animation, because like oftentimes we love the apps to be animatable and to be very much responsive, but sometimes we end up having the bad code which we really don't want. This section already has a dedicated I would say content regarding using Rive versus Lottie. I don't know how many of you guys have like heard of Rive. It is basically an alternative, like a better alternative to Lottie. It always goes at 60 FPS. It has some like official benchmarks in the guide. So try to read that. You will have a better understanding of the things. Okay, so another point is how we can use the CI/CD stuff to create developer velocity. Most of the projects have this, and some of them don't. So you could set up a better CI in place to help to help see the issues earlier. So maybe like static analysis, like checking your TypeScript prettier and all, because because if you have TypeScript in place and if you are using it correctly, most of your issues will be resolved over there. And you can also use CD once your CI is integrated. You can also like integrate CD to ship faster, so you don't have any dependency on your laptop. You could just trigger it already once your PR is merged, and it just depends on you. We could also regress performance issues on CI using Reassure. Basically, Reassure is a very good tool. It creates a report, and it adds, as a GitHub comment on your pull request, that the performance is like increased with this this milliseconds to this milliseconds. And it is very useful to analyze, okay, this piece of code is adding this much to the JavaScript. So basically Reassure uses the React Profiler API under the hood. So it is mostly, or like it is just profiling your JavaScript. The last thing I would discuss with context to the ultimate guide is DMAIC approach. So basically, this guide has also a section for this: define, measure, analyze, like improve, and control. So most of these thing I have talked about like already. I would just go through quickly. So if you have a problem, like as we discussed, the news feed problem, we first need to define what we want, what is the issue, what we want. Then we need to measure, to pinpoint the pain areas and to get the idea that what could be the causes. And then we want to analyze. The analyze means that how can we approach to the solution. If we have like the memory issue, how can we do that. Then we want to improve, like propose your solution. And then you want to control means that you want to regress it. I mean, you want to control that the solution you just added, it is not like underperforming your application. It is actually improving your performance. So yeah, that's about it. I will try to give you guys an actual example of that, probably like later in the like session. So I now have something for you. I just tried to like gather a few tips and tricks, or maybe not tips and tricks, basically the problems that we face normally. uh yeah, just give me a second. Okay, so the most common issue is the scrolling list is not snappy. It is very is like laggy, and also how do we approach to that scenario? Because this is like the most common issue. Almost every like app has the list, right? So first thing is profile it first. Use the profilers. You profile the memory like usage and JS FPS, UI FPS, your components like mounting time and how many time it is re-rendering. You have to profile things like that. Then once you have a better picture, you go with the proposed solution, right? So basically, like I think a couple of months like months ago, flash list was introduced. Most of you guys would be familiar with it. um, so basically it is an implementation of the recycler list view. It is also a package, but it was by, I think, like Flipkart. So but it is very hard to use. I mean, like it is not a very good developer experience. So Flashlist basically as like acts as a wrapper on top of it. And it uses the concept of the recycling. So your each item, I mean your each item in like in the list, so it is, so once it goes out of the viewport, basically your viewport is your phone screen. Once your view goes out of the viewport flash list, it like recycles it for the next item in the list. So it uses that. And like it is a rule, you have to keep your items very light. Do not do any sort of side effects in that. I mean, do not call set state, do not call like API request, anything like that in your render items. Because flat like flash list won't play nicely when it comes to the recycling stuff for that. We have a very good example of that. So we were working on a project, and we had the issue like the same the issue that almost as like every app like faces. We were so we had two lists, one for the chat list and second one for the chat messages. So the chat messages one was very heavy, when it comes to the render items. So it was like shooting two API requests, like number of set states, everything like that. So we decided to use the flash list, and the flash list did not play very nicely to it because of the very heavy render items. So we fall back to the flat list, and then we try to optimize the flat list itself, and like a couple of other JavaScript items, which I will talk about randomly in this session. So the flash list, it worked pretty well on the chat list, because the chat list, we mm, we could like make it very very light, the render items, so it played very nicely. So inside the app we had two lists, one for the flash list and second one for the like flat list. So you have to be very conscious about when to use which one, right? So that's that. And when you are working with flash list, you have to use tips like estimated item size, get item type, and override item layout. Basically, estimated item size is that you are telling flash list, okay, this is the item size of the list that I think it could be. And yeah, so uh, basically, if you don't pass the estimated item size for the first time, like, so the flash list will warn you, with the suggested item size for you. Okay, so you can use 240, 300, something like that. So because it gets your items, tries to calculate them, and if you don't set this prop, it will tell you to set it to this approximate value. So you can also use get item type if you have like multiple items in the list. What I'm trying to say is like multiple item. For example, you have one like card for the images and one for the text. So you could have two different items. And then you could also use override item layout. So you will try to tell flashlist to use your static, your implementation of the layout. So it requires some knowledge of the platform to be able to get this right, this specific prop, but we all will get through to that. Okay, so it was about the flash list, and after that I will talk about generally. And so basically, if you are working with flat list, you can implement the get item layout. It is very useful, very recommended to use this prop if you have render items which are static. I mean, like whose size don't change over the life cycle. So if you have 300 by like 30 height and width, so you could use that and tell the flat list to skip the calculation, so it won't skip the calculating layout. Your thread is safe and you have like much more time, and your items will be rendered very fast as compared to if you don't set this specific prop. And this have to be very precise. We have seen cases where this wasn't precise and the layout would change over scrolling. So that is pretty bad UX, so you have to be wary of that. So a good rule of thumb, always keep your render item light. Don't call APIs, don't set states if you could, and just don't do that. And one common thing is we have often seen code where we use the anonymous function for the flat list render item. It is bad because it will re-render it as the reference will change. A common solution could be to create a function outside of the component and pass it and just call it by the reference, so it won't change. Or maybe you could use the use callback, but I think the former one is better because you want to avoid the memoization as you could. I mean, in places where you don't want to use the memoization, just don't do that. Try to follow the basics and you will be off to a good start. Okay, so there are a couple of other props we could use, like initial num to render. Basically, it tells the flat list to how many items to render on the initial mount. For example, when you comes on the screen for the first time, so you tell flat list, for example, to load like 6 items, 8 items. So by default, it is 10. So you could adjust to it, and it will be very fast in terms of mounting. So if you have like a very big cards, you could probably set it to 6 or 5, and then play with the max to render per batch. So you are telling that okay, so on the next layout, like render 4 items, 6 items, so you have to read the documentation. It has the native documentation has a specific guide to improve the flat list optimization, and they have gone through very good details in like how to use these kind of stuff. Last thing is the window size. By default, the window size is basically it is sorry. So if this is my phone, I mean this is my phone, and so the basically the window size would be uh so one phone screen accounts for the one, right? So by default window size is 21, which means that 21 screens of the phone. So 10 in between and sorry, so one in center, 10 above, 10 below. So you have like 21 screens of the phone. So you could try to play with that, try to like reduce that if you have like for example, the memory consumption issues. So you could try to play with that. Okay. So memorize render items if they should be. Okay, so this is related to the second point, and what you want to do is you want to profile with the React Dev tools. So it is a very good tool. It tells you that which items in the list are being re-rendered. So you know, and why they are being re-rendered. So is it due to the prompt, due to the stage, what else? And the ultimate guide has a very good section on it, on how to use the React profiler and what each thing like means in that profiler. So first try to profile your stuff, and then you could try to memorize the items that are being re-rendered because of something is changing that you don't want to be changed. For example, the a common use case is when we work with the pagination. On the first load, we get the 10 items from the API. We set it, and on the second load we get 10 more and we append it to the data. So it looks like something like this. Sorry, set data, the old data, and then you spread the new data, and then we pass this data from state to the flat list. So basically what this is doing, it is just like creating the new array, and like the new references to each item in the list will be created, and this will like re-render all of the 20 items in the list. Instead it should only re-render the 10 new ones, right? So this is not playing nicely. So what you want to do is you want to use the memo here. I mean, you want to use the memoization here, and you want to implement the r props equal, basically the second argument to the memo function, and you want to compare the props. Okay, so if I am only using the name, title, and for example the image URL prop, I will compare that. If these three are changing, just like re-render my render item, otherwise don't. So it is like a common problem that we all run into, so we could try to avoid it by this thing. So I think that's it with the scrolling the list. And next is images not performing well. uh, just give me a second. Okay, so if your images are not performing well, you want to profile it. Why I am is like emphasizing very much on everything to profile it first, because you don't want to shoot in the blind. You want to value your time. You want to get the better results, and you want to sound like good with the numbers and all, because if you profile it first, you will have some things for the benchmarking. Okay, so like initially it was taking these entries. You propose your solution, now it is taking this. You can compare it, you can add it to your pull request, and it would sound very much confident on your solution. So once you profile your images, like you could use the onload callback to see that okay, these images are taking like this much time. Or you could also use the React Dev tools to see the component like mounting time or the loading time. So once you do that, you have now to solve things, right? So you want to see that if your images is taking too long to load, maybe the image size is too big. So you want to use the smaller images. You could talk to your backend to add a QD parameter of like scale, like 2x, 3x, 1x, and you could use that and things like that. And then you could try to use some popular packages like like fast image. We all are very much aware of that. It uses the SD web image on iOS and like light under the hood for Android. So because and the reason is that it also provides the very good like caching for you. So the first load of of the image will be like will take some time obviously, but if you kill the app, you come on the app again, it will like load very instantly. Maybe if you are using the app, um, and you use the same URL anywhere like deep like in your app, it will be cached, so it would just like get up very instantly. So you could use that, and you could also like preload images if you are, for example, like creating an app of like images which shows the, for example, if we could talk about uh, like like Pinterest here. Basically it is the app of like images and all. So you could use the load images function to preload your images. But it has just one downside to it. It is not actively like maintained anymore. Last comment was I think around like October. So like after that, and yeah, there are a very good pull request that has been like raised to this package that are not yet merged. So you want to use the expo image now. It just like released a couple of days ago, and is like it has everything related to the fast image, but like in a better way. It also provides support for the like blur hash and for the transition. So basically transition is just the animation. So if your component's URL is changed, so it will like animate it, and provide a better user experience. Yeah, sure thing. So yeah, so I think we are almost done. Yeah, we are almost done. So if your app is having like slower app startup times, you want to profile it first using the Android Studios profiler or Xcode Instruments app launch. And if don't, you want to use a stopwatch, but it is very error like prone. You have to record like multiple entries and then try to average them to get like, okay, 300 ms is the final like result for your app is startup time. And out of the box you could use like Hermes. So Hermes is a JavaScript engine for React Native apps. So you could use them as a result of a benchmark. The Hermes gives us almost 51% startup time on like Android, and 63% on the iOS. So basically, it is compared to the JavaScript core, basically the JSC engine that comes with the React Native. So you could like toggle between like those two. There is also a one called React Native V8. You could also look up to that. It also has some very decent benchmarks. So you may want to check that. And second thing is you want to analyze the native dependent like the native dependencies. So basically the native dependencies are linked when your app is being started. So like the heavier they are, the slower your app startup time will be. So you may want to look for the unused one and like remove them, or may want to um, look for the like lightweight one. Second thing is the heavy JavaScript you have. So basically your JavaScript bundle, it also accounts for the app startup time. It loads and then it being executed in the app startup time. So you want to keep it at light as possible, remove the unused dependencies. One good example of that is use the day.js instead of the moment.js, because of the size it like brings uh, with it. And finally, you could also analyze your JavaScript bundle with the React Native bundle visualizer. It also tells you very good in the pictorial form. So you may want to check that. the last thing is you may want to use the re.pack, basically the repack. It is a webpack based bundler for React native apps by Callstack. And what you could do is so if you have like a few tabs on your application, if we talk like about Facebook, if we have like the marketplace tab, we could split it into the async chunks and we could host it on the remote. So when the user is like going to the marketplace tab, you display an activity indicator, and the JavaScript will be fetched from the API and it will be shown to the user. But so this helps in decreasing the app startup time. But like the user is when the user is going to that screen, you will have to show an like indicator. So there are ways to play with like with that. And finally we have a miscellaneous section. And we I have just talked just tried to gather up like a bunch of office stuff. So you may want to avoid the like inline line functions and the inline like stylings, because they create a new object or the new function like reference on each like render of it. But if you are using the basic components like view, it shouldn't like matter. But if you're choosing the composite function like your custom component, it should be re-rendering. You may want to batch the like network calls when you are working with like GraphQL. So it allows you to batch a multiple like request. So instead of sending them time to time, send them at once. uh Combined queries where you can in GraphQL. So basically like GraphQL also supports instead of shooting two different queries, you could like just combine to them into one. You may want to remove the console.logs in production build. So there is a very good uh, like Babel plugin for that. You could choose that. There is also one thing like the native stack like navigator. So basically, we had a very good like results on that. We were using like a list, and it was being used by the JavaScript like based like model. So it was a JavaScript like navigator, and we were rendering a huge list. And it was performing very bad because of the like memory. And we what we did was we analyzed that, and we implemented the native stack navigator. Basically it was a brownfield project, so it has like the native side and also the React Native side as like simultaneously. So it was very hard to get to added this like native stack navigator, but it has its very good results, and you may also use. So if your app is using the shimmers or the like skeleton loaders, so don't like add them in in a list of like scrollable. Try to make it like static. Try to like mask them, and then use them, so you will have like better results. And there are like a couple of other things. I mean, I wouldn't go into much details like further, but just sometimes like lifting the state up to the parent or to the the component does the job, and you don't want to memoize it. So if you have some state in the like parent and you are just passing it to your children, don't do that. Just like move it to the children itself, and it won't like re-render all of the components. So yeah, and there are a couple of other things like React Native mmkv. You could use it instead of like async storage. Just try to profile the stuff first and then use that. I think we are almost done. So here is a QR. If you want to get a link to the book, you could do that. And we are done. So Glenn, we could do the QA.
Yep. So thank you, Her, for a very knowledgeable session. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and then we will take the questions. So one question from my side is, can we use, is using TypeScript a very normal practice? Or is there any edge where TypeScript is preferred as compared to JavaScript?
Yeah, sure thing. So basically, like using the TypeScript is now, like the standard. So basically, the thing is, when you use TypeScript, you have like a more control on your code. So you don't introduce any errors into your code base. So basically, if you think like most of the JavaScript issues are like arise for the type. So if you use like TypeScript, you could set up CI to check for the errors when you create like request. You could check for the TS, and it will prevent like the errors go into your application. If something is undefined, you will get, okay, so if you expect this specific function argument to be defined, but it is being undefined, TS will give you an error here. But if you are using the JavaScript, it won't give you any sort of thing. So, and oftentimes we get the logs that cannot read property something of undefined. So yeah, with TypeScript, you have control on your code, on your JavaScript code, because TypeScript acts as, like superset of JS. So it is very good practice to use TS
Okay,
whenever you
and
can.
what's the best practice call stack is using? Like they are using TypeScript in all of the projects, or it's 50-50?
No, it is like never were 50 you are using the TS in every like places. We also have, and like sort of an ESLint like plugin, which checks for the ESLint TS issues, period, like period issues. So the CI never like approves the pull request if your static checker, TS checker, and the ESLint is not being approved. And you have to like pass through that if you want to like merge your code. And just to add, there is also very much emphasis on the integration test, unit test, and the like end-to-end testing, because and like the most of them also runs on the CI using like detox, or the latest one, it is called the Maestro. So you could use that to run your like end-to-end test. So there is very much like emphasis on the tooling of the project, because it gives you very much confidence that your code is like almost covered through the issues.
Okay,
So I have
thank
a
you.
question. So is there any way to find out like how much our app is consuming the battery, like the battery consumption at the very earlier stages, like at the time of development, so we make sure not to overdo that?
Yeah, sure thing. The Android Studios profiler and the Xcode has, this panel where you could see the memory, the battery that your app is using. So you may want to like note the like benchmarks. And once you add a new feature, you may want uh, to like profile it once more. What I don't know is and because it could not be available on CI, because it is required to be run in the Android Studio and in the like Xcode. So you have to run it like locally. So you have to contain some cycles after each like feature, so that you have a very good like grip on the battery and on the memory records.
I see. Thanks.
Is use of extensive memoirs degrade performance?
Sorry, Mas, I couldn't get you.
Is use of extensive memoirs degrades performance?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a situation where we were using the React.lazy, and it would just, it would just like decrease the performance instead of that. So, like as I said, you said try to avoid the memorization whenever you can. Also, only use it when you want to use it. So, the most of the time, um the thing is you could solve the issues by lifting the state to the relevant component, so that you don't re-render the leaves of the component. Because if you have a state in the parent and that state is only required by component A and component B and C does not require it, what you will do is you will go and you will memorize the component B and C, which you like shouldn't be doing because they don't need that state. So what you should do is you could like move that state to that component A. So only the component A will be re-rendering, but not the B and C. So like oftentimes like lifting the state to the relevant component fixes the like issues for you. There is a very good like article, I think by Dan Abramov. He is the core contributor to React team, and he also talks about this to use to like lift the states instead of like memorization. So yeah.
Okay, I think that's it from our side. So do we have any other question or we just wrap up? I think that's it. So thank you so much for this session. And if it's possible, please share the slides with us so that we can share it internally. I've shared the book link with all of the employees at Folio3. So hopefully it will help them. All right. Thank you, Her, and best of luck.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
bhai.
Thanks,
बहुत
Torado.
शुक्रिया।
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.